all manner of persons having anything to say or do at this Her Majesty's Grand Court holding here this day before his lordships. Honorable Mr. Justice Smelly, QC, Chief Justice of the Cayman Islands. Honorable Mr. Justice Kiwale. Honorable Madam Justice Richards, QC. Honorable Madam Justice Ramsey Hale. Honorable Mr. Justice Doyle, draw nigh and give their attendance, and they shall be heard. Oyez, oyez, oyez. God save the Queen.
Please remain standing for the singing of the national anthem. Remain standing. We will lead in prayers by Father Jerome Small of the Anglican Church.
Let us pray. Almighty God, the fountain of wisdom and source of justice, whose will is good and righteous, and whose law is truth. It is through you that authority is rightly administered, laws are enacted, and judgment decreed. We come to you this day, humbly beseeching you to bless and guide the courts of justice of these Cayman Islands. Assist with your spirit of counsel and fortitude the Chief Justice of these islands as he heads and leads the judiciary. May he know that you have been and you always will be with him. We bring before you as well all judges, magistrates, lawyers, all other members of our judiciary. Further give unto them the spirit of wisdom and understanding, that the work of these courts may be conducted in fairness and righteousness, as they seek to discern the truth and impartially administer the law in the fear of you alone. We make our prayer through him who shall come to be our judge, your Son, our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
On the bench, we have decided to take off our masks at this stage, giving the assurance in the jargon of the day that we are all laterally flow tested. Your Excellency the Governor, Honorable Premier, Honorable Deputy Premier, Minister Turner, other members of Parliament, Minister Ebanks, Deputy Commissioner Walton, other distinguished guests, including Mrs. Smelly, who is here in her usual supportive role, members of the bar, and members of the public who may be watching these proceedings at home or abroad I bid you a warm welcome to the opening of the courts of the Cayman Islands for 2022. I must extend an explanation for our delayed start. As just said, the best laid plans of mice and men. One of our officers on parade succumbed to heat exhaustion. I'm happy to report, though, that the ambulance has arrived and he is doing well. First, let me thank Father Small for his inspiring prayer, which will be taken to heart and guide us throughout the time to come. I don't know whether Mrs. Small was able to attend with you, Father. She has not. Please extend our greetings to her. Thank you for being here. Allow me to note, please, the presence of Justices of Appeal Sir Alan Moses and Sir Richard Field, my colleagues presiding with me today, Justice Kewale, Richards, Ramsey Hale, and especially Justice Doyle, who, although already since July of last year, a very busy judge of the Financial Services Division, is presiding today for his first time at an opening of the court. Welcome, Justice Doyle. Allow me also to note the presence of Mr. Alberga, Queen's Counsel, here exercising his prescriptive right as the doyen of the bar. Justice Macmillan, who recently retired, our acting Justices Carter, St. John Stevens, and Walters, as well as Chief Magistrate Foldatz and Magistrates Gunn, McFarlane, Hernandez, and Allard, especially. I note also that a number of our colleagues, such as Justices Williams, Siegel, and Parker, who are overseas and so could not be present in person today, will be following the proceedings remotely. Before calling upon the Honorable Attorney General, the Acting Director of Public Prosecutions, and Mr. Eric Bodden, President of the Cayman Islands Law Practitioners Association, to move and in turn second the motion for the opening of the courts, I should explain that neither they nor I will be giving our full reports today. They, as leaders and representatives of the public and private bars, have a right of audience today because they speak on behalf of the legal profession, whose members are all officers of the court, and it is a well-established tradition that they are allowed on these occasions to make their reports to the public as well. But due to COVID-19 restrictions, as would be apparent from the social distancing and the reduced numbers in court today, we have had to limit the number of persons present and instead transmit the proceedings online for the sake of public access. And so instead of their usual full reports, brief summaries have been pre-recorded, and those will be presented at the next stage of this morning's program, with the full written reports along with those on behalf of the Judiciary to be published on the website judicial.ky shortly after these proceedings. Another change this year will be the presentation of a number of brief reports on behalf of the Judicial Administration. Unlike in previous years, when the Chief Justice gave a singular full report on the work of the courts, this year you will hear briefly as well from the Chief Magistrate, the Court Administrator, and other heads of departments, with their full reports to be published afterwards. The brief reports for today are pre-recorded and will run for about an hour and 15 minutes. At the end of the pre-recorded session, we will return live to the courtroom for my closing remarks and conclusion with the national song. With those words of introduction, I now invite the Honorable Attorney General, Sir Sam Bulgin, Queen's Counsel, to move the motion, and in turn, without further introduction, the Acting Director of Public Prosecutions and Mr. Bodden to second the motion? Mr. Attorney.
Thank you, my Lord Chief Justice. And good morning to everyone. My Lord Chief Justice, Honorable Justices of Appeal, other Honorable Judges of the Grand Court, Honorable Chief Magistrate, the Honorable Magistrate, Madam Solicitor General, Madam Acting Director of Public Prosecutions, President of the Cayman Islands Legal Practitioners Association, special guests, distinguished colleagues, and colleagues at the private and public bar, ladies and gentlemen, and special hello also to those following us virtually. My Lord Chief Justice, allow me to join you in also recognizing the presence of His Excellency, the Governor, the Honorable Premier, Honorable Deputy Premier, Cabinet colleagues, and members of Parliament. My Lord Chief Justice, I rise at your invitation to move the motion for the opening of the Grand Court for the year 2022. But given the change in format for this year, I'm mindful that comments are expected to be abridged. And so, my Lord Chief Justice, with that caveat, please allow me to observe. There's an echo. Okay. I'm hearing myself twice. So. Thank you. To observe that, like 2020, the year 2021 was characterized by a mixture of challenges and gains. Challenges, my Lord, associated mainly with the continuing presence of COVID-19 pandemic and all its manifestations, and which have unfortunately stretched into 2022. The pandemic, my Lord, has unfortunately resulted in other problems. Issues such as the dislocation in our economy, continuing separation of families, severe strain on our health sector, and unfortunate loss of lives, among other things. But my lords, as I observe elsewhere, despite all the intractable problems with COVID, our courts, indeed the Court of Appeal, the Grand Court, Magistrates Court, all found acceptable and creative ways to keep the wheels of justice turning. And for that, I wish to pay tribute to yourself, my Lord Chief Justice, fellow judges, magistrates, learned President and other Justices of Appeal, as well as the entire judicial administration. My Lord, we were even able to recognize a number of outstanding colleagues as new members of Her Majesty's Council, one of whom, my Lord, has since gone on to be elevated to knighthood. And so permit me to again extend my congratulations to them all, and special congrats to Sir Alden McLaughlin QC. Congrats also to my colleague, Mr. Eric Bodden, on being elected President of the Cayman Islands Legal Practitioners Association. Permit me, my Lord Chief Justice, to also indulge in a bit of personal reference to you by observing that this might be your last occasion presiding as Chief Justice over the opening of the Grand Court. And while the actual retirement is happily for us some months away, and we will have another opportunity to say more, when it does arrive, it would mark the end of a historic tenure of some 24 years as Chief Justice, and a period during which these halls of justice, the jurisdiction, the region, and indeed further field, have all been enriched by your scholarly and illuminating judgments, including the longest judgment ever to be delivered by our courts to date, and which I note was recently upheld by the Court of Appeal. Your tenure as Chief Justice marks a period during which you have brought glory and honor to the jurisdiction, and done so without any orchestrated fanfare, but rather in your characteristic unflappable and phlegmatic manner, and with visionary and transformational stewardship. History will be kind to you, my Lord, not because you will be right in it, but because the evidence will be irrefutable. And speaking about history, my Lord, allow me to observe that present here today is your dear wife, Mrs. Jacqueline Smelly, who has a long history of faithful attendance to these openings in her dual capacity as spouse and, of course, as counsel of long outstanding membership to the Cayman Bar, and in her unequivocal support for the administration of justice. Her presence, my Lord, is always uplifting and deeply and warmly appreciated. And I noticed today she is accompanied by the genomic sequencing expert, Mr. Jonathan Smelly. Welcome. My Lord, it only remains for me to now formally move to motion for the year 2022, and to say thanks to all those who were involved directly and indirectly with the administration of justice, and to wish for all a happy, peaceful, and productive new year. And before I formally take my seat, my Lord, I would just wish to say that I've been advised of the passing of former Chief Justice George Elliott Harry, who retired from this court in 1998. He served us with distinction. He was unique in some ways, but he was an excellent jurist, very passionate about the law. And we understandably would want to extend condolences to his dear family and to thank them for his service. If it pleases you, my Lord, I now move motion for the opening of the Grand Court for the year 2022. May it please you.
Good morning, my Lord Chief Justice, Honorable Justices of Appeal, Honorable Judges of the Grand Court, Honorable Chief Magistrate, other Honorable Magistrates, Honorable Attorney General, Madam Solicitor General, President of SILPA, distinguished colleagues at the Bar, distinguished special guests, including His Excellency, the Governor, the Honorable Premier, Deputy Premier, and other honorable ministers, ladies and gentlemen. May it please you, my Lord, I am privileged to second the Attorney General's motion for the opening of the Grand Court. And I am grateful to my Lord Chief Justice for the opportunity to make a few brief remarks. My Lord, we too acknowledge the passing of former Chief Justice Harry, who served this jurisdiction with distinction, and on behalf of the Office of the DPP, we extend our deepest condolences to his family and his loved ones. My Lord, in happier news, we offer our congratulations to Justice David Doyle, who joined the Financial Services Division in June 2021, bringing a wealth of experience and extensive understanding of financial services matters. We also offer our congratulations to Mr. Valdez Foldatz on his appointment as Chief Magistrate in February 2021. Mr. Foldatz has been a committed and passionate advocate for the administration of criminal justice in the summary court, and we have benefited from his proactive and innovative approach. My Lord, we also saw the appointment of Ms. Vanessa Allard as magistrate. Ms. Allard has been a longtime friend and professional colleague, and I am thrilled to offer her heartfelt congratulations on my own behalf, as well as that of the Office of the DPP. The judiciary will no doubt be extremely well served by appointees of such high caliber, and we wish them all continued success in their new roles. My Lord, what we practitioners, and in fact, all court users always wish for is to appear before judges who are firm yet unfailingly courteous to witnesses and defendants, so that each person leaves the courtroom feeling that they have been treated fairly and justly. At the criminal bar, we have in this jurisdiction been fortunate enough to appear before Dame Linda Dobbs and Justice Roger Chappell. And every regard, we leave their courts satisfied that the hearing, whether it is a trial, sentence, or case management hearing, has been dealt with fairly and justly, regardless of the outcome. On behalf of everyone who has had the opportunity and the pleasure of appearing before both of these eminent judges, and on behalf of all the court users, we wish them both a happy and lengthy retirement. Although we are happy to note that we will continue to benefit from their knowledge and expertise, in November 2021, they delivered training workshops for the criminal bar, which were very well received, and we are very pleased with the indication from my Lord Chief Justice that they will continue to be involved in continuing legal education for the criminal bar. We also acknowledge the retirement of Justice Robin McMillan after 5 years of distinguished service on the bench. Justice McMillan maintained a large docket of cases in the Financial Services Division and also handled a significant number of public law cases. He was well regarded for his quiet, calm, yet piercingly incisive demeanor, and he will be greatly missed. My Lord, we too take the opportunity to acknowledge that this is your last year presiding over this ceremony. And while there will no doubt be many occasions to publicly pay tribute to your accomplishments as the longest serving Chief Justice of these islands, on behalf of the Office of the DPP, I wish to salute your visionary and transformative stewardship of the judiciary since 1998. My Lord, the characteristics of a good judge are not esoteric, nor have they significantly changed in thousands of years. They are still the same as they were when described by Socrates: to hear courteously, to answer wisely, to consider soberly, and to decide impartially. A good judge is wise, courageous, firm, alert, incorruptible, compassionate, and insightful. There can be no doubt that your Lordship has exemplified all of these traits throughout a long and illustrious career. My Lord, I wish you and all of your judges, magistrates, court administrative staff, my colleagues at the bar, and the people of the Cayman Islands a happy, healthy, safe, and prosperous New Year. And I formally second the motion to open the Grand Court.
Thank you, Madam Acting DPP. Mr. Borden.
Protocol being established, if it may please my lord. I rise to support the motion to open the Grand Court for the year 2022 in my capacity as president of the Cayman Islands Legal Practitioners Association, and also in Mr. McKee's absence, for which he sends his apologies, in my capacity as consultant editor for the Cayman Islands Law Reports. Of course, this year, as your lordship has already indicated, the long-form version of our speeches will be uploaded to the court's website, and a summary version will be presented at the end of this ceremony. However, I would be remiss if I didn't take this opportunity in open court to make two very brief, short remarks. The first, my lord, is to acknowledge the passing of the former Chief Justice George Harry, and to formally send our condolences on behalf of SILPA to his family, friends, and former colleagues. The second remark, my lord, is with respect to your imminent retirement from the post of Chief Justice later this year. I have had the privilege of personally working with your lordship on various SILPA initiatives, including the development of the Legal Services Act, and also through our work on the Legal Advisory Council and the Judicial Clerkship Program. It has been an absolute honor and a distinct pleasure. We will obviously have much more to say when the time comes, but in the meantime, I would like to take this opportunity to express our sincere thanks on behalf of SILPA and the entire legal industry. My lord, it only remains for me to formally second the Honorable Attorney General's motion to open the Grand Court for the year 2022 and to wish your lordship and all of those present and tuning in a very prosperous and happy new year.
Thank you, Mr. Bodden. First, we join in marking the recent passing of former Chief Justice Harry. When news of his passing arrived, condolences were publicly expressed by the observance of silence in court presided over by Justice Richards. We will ensure that all the wonderful sentiments expressed today are conveyed to Mrs. Harry and his family. We also thank you for noting the retirements of Justice Macmillan, Justice Linda Dobbs, and Justice Roger Chappell, and the appointments of Chief Magistrate and Magistrate Allard. We endorse very strongly every sentiment of appreciation you have expressed for their invaluable service and service to come. As you'll hear from my closing remarks, it is reassuring to know, particularly as the acting DPP has commented, that Justices Chappell and Dobbs will continue to support our continuing education program. And it goes without saying, of course, that I'm very thankful for all your kind and generous words in recognition of my time on the bench and service as Chief Justice. I speak not just for myself, but for my wife as well. And Mr. Attorney, when you were commenting, I glanced over to the jury box and got what a barely perceptible nod of approval. So thank you for your generous comments all. As Mr. Attorney has also noted, there are several months to go before I finally get to hang up my hat. And so I look forward to our work together this year on the most urgent initiatives, some of which, such as the implementation of the Legal Services Act, I know you'll be mentioning in your pre-recorded statements. And it is indeed to that part of the program to which we now turn. The first item has very special significance for us because of the recent passing of Archbishop Tutu. It is a recording of his commencement message sent to mark the opening of the first Human Rights Today Symposium, which our judiciary, supported by the government as a whole, hosted in conjunction with the United Nations in 2001, declared by the UN to be the Year of Human Rights. The Archbishop's message resonates with us today, first because it reminds us that on the passing of the great man, we in Cayman, as well as the wider Caribbean community, along with the rest of the world, have lost a champion for human rights and a true friend. The recording also reminds us of the symposium itself, the opening day of which, as fate would have had it, coincided with the events of September 11th, 2001. Amidst the shock and horror which descended that morning like a pall upon the gathering of more than 400 delegates from around the Caribbean and the wider Commonwealth, the Archbishop's words brought reassurance and a renewed sense of purpose to the mission of the symposium, as I trust it will to those of us seeing and hearing it today. Many scholarly papers were delivered at the symposium, and these also will remain available on the judicial website. So we'll now break from the live program to the pre-recorded program, beginning with the Archbishop's message.
Gentlemen, very dear friends, I greet you from South Africa. I really would have liked to join you during this important symposium for the Caribbean as you examine an ever-evolving future of hope, peace, and respect for all peoples. However, I am with you in the spirit of unity and understanding. I congratulate the people and government of the Cayman Islands on having the courage and foresight to host this symposium for the diversity of people across your region. The road to human rights is a never-ending, though endlessly rewarding path. The ideal of a harmonious society is anchored on an individual willingness to dispense with personal prejudices. Our human condition is fraught with biases, of which we are sometimes fiercely fond, but to which we are so often quite blind. Your challenge is to make a better tomorrow for all. This work will not be easy. You will argue and perhaps cry, but the rewards will be inestimable. Take the words spoken and emotions shared during this symposium into your hearts, back to your homelands. Become an instrument of human rights. Let the world hear your symphony. I send you my very best wishes for an exciting and life-changing event. God bless you all.
I would now like to introduce the Honourable Samuel Bulgin, QC, Attorney General and Head of the Portfolio of Legal Affairs, who will share with us some of the legislative achievements made over the last year.
My Lord Chief Justice, Honourable Judges of the Grand Court, Honourable Magistrates, all distinguished guests, colleagues of the public and private bars, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to also say a special welcome to Justice Doyle and our Honour Miss Allard and Acting Judge Alistair Walters. Having, my Lord Chief Justice, at your invitation, moved a motion for the opening of the Grand Court for the year 2022, I also wish to proffer some brief remarks. My Lord, 2021 saw us all pretty much readjusted to our way of life due to the continuing existence of COVID-19, including the new variants. And yet, my Lord, the wheels of justice continue to turn in 2021 with the business of the courts continuing, notwithstanding the constraints from COVID and other factors. And so too, my Lord, did the government's parliamentary agenda continue. We were able to enact several pieces of very impactful legislation, including the Companies Amendment Act and various laws relating to vaccinations, including numerous pieces of secondary legislation. Work is also ongoing to modernize our Grand Court and insolvency rules. Permit me, my Lord, to express heartfelt appreciation to all those involved in the administration of justice, law and order, and health and wellness, especially within the public health sector. Special thanks as well to my colleagues in the portfolio of legal affairs for their ongoing support, professionalism, and their dedication. My Lord, in 2021, the jurisdiction continued its ongoing engagement with the FATF, CFATF, and the European Commission, with some positive outcomes, including a re-rating exercise of the jurisdiction's legislative framework for technical compliance in which it was assessed as having all 40 FATF recommendations rated either compliant or largely compliant. Indeed, Cayman is one of only 2 countries in the world to have achieved such a rating. My Lord Chief Justice, I am made to understand that this might be the last occasion on which you will preside over a Grand Court opening, as you should be taking your well-earned retirement in the last quarter of this year. I am sure there will be a fitting occasion at which we will be able to pay tribute. But please allow me to say today that your stewardship as Chief Justice since 1998 and your contributions more generally to the legal landscape of these islands have been nothing short of visionary, transformational, and incredibly impactful. It is a tenure for which we all owe you a tremendous debt of gratitude. In closing, I wish for all a very healthy, happy, and productive year ahead as I again move for the opening of the Grand Court for the year 2022. May it so please you, my lords.
Candia James Malcolm is the Acting Director of the Office of Public Prosecutions, and she will provide some brief remarks on the work of the Office of the Director of the Public Prosecutions over the past year and plans for the years to come.
My Lord Chief Justice, Honorable Judges of the Grand Court, Honorable Chief Magistrate, other Honorable Magistrates, Justices of the Peace, Honorable Attorney General, Madam Solicitor General, President of SILPA, distinguished colleagues at the bar, distinguished special guests, ladies and gentlemen. I am privileged to second the Attorney General's motion for the opening of the Grand Court for the year 2022, and I'm grateful to my Lord Chief Justice for the opportunity to make a few brief remarks on the work of the Office of the DPP in the past year and our plans for the year to come. The year 2021 brought significant changes to the Office of the DPP. In May, we saw the departure of Patrick Moran as Director after 6 years of service. During his tenure, Patrick successfully prosecuted a number of significant, serious, and complex matters, and we thank him for his commitment to the work of the office over the years. We also saw the departure of Senior Crown Counsel Elizabeth Lees, who first joined the department in 2006 and was one of our longest-serving Crown Counsel. Since 2019, Elizabeth has also been the National Coordinator on behalf of the Anti-Money Laundering Steering Group. In that role, she played a crucial part in the Cayman Islands satisfying the FATF recommendations, even while continuing to make significant contributions to the work of this office. We also bid farewell to one of our rising legal stars, our paralegal officer, Radine Simpson. Radine graduated from the Truman Bodden Law School in July 2021 and was the highest achieving student on the course for that academic year and was the recipient of the Oil Panton Prize for Best Performance on the PPC. It is no exaggeration to say that Radine represents the future of the Caymanian bar, and we are pleased to be able to say that we had a hand in shaping her legal foundation. Our primary focus for the year ahead is strengthening the capacity of the office. We are working closely with the portfolio of the civil service to restructure the department. The first stage in that process was the creation of an additional position of assistant director, bringing the total complement to 2. I am pleased to say that following an open recruitment process, we were able to fill these positions internally. In August 2021, Toyin Salako and Scott Rainwright were appointed as assistant directors with oversight over the financial crime and international portfolio and witness protection and witness care portfolio, respectively. Both Toyin and Scott are excellent lawyers and have given years of dedicated service to our office, and I am thrilled to welcome them to the senior management team as we work together to effect transformative change within the ODPP. Our focus this year is to expand the department even further by adding key positions at the senior level, including an additional deputy director. We are also actively seeking to develop talent at every stage of the office, and we are specifically committed to the advancement of Caymanians within the office. In this regard, there are several initiatives in development which include creation of a new role of Case Progression Officer to provide more effective case preparation and management in both the Summary Court and Grand Court. Creation of a new role of Crown Counsel Graduate, specifically aimed at offering opportunities to newly minted Caymanian attorneys to enter in the profession. An additional Witness Care Officer to improve our capacity to deliver more effective victim care and support in the Summary Court. We are extremely grateful for the support provided by the portfolio of the Civil Service and the Deputy Governor in bringing these endeavors to fruition over the course of the year. It suffices to say that there has been no diminution in the workload of the ODPP during 2021. I wish to pay tribute to the entire dedicated team of prosecutors in the ODPP as they continue to prosecute matters of increasing complexity and provide timely expert guidance to law enforcement agencies with passion, integrity, and professionalism. In 2021, this office received over 2,200 files for charging decisions from various law enforcement agencies. 124 indictments were disposed of in the Grand Court, with 90 matters resulting in conviction. The ODPP also continues to play its part in meeting the FATF recommendations. Our team of Crown Counsel have received a significant amount of further training in areas relating to financial crime and asset recovery. It is also my pleasure to announce that the Cayman Islands will assume the presidency of the Asset Recovery Interagency Network for the Caribbean, which is a regional network of law enforcement and legal practitioners in the field of asset tracing, freezing, seizure, and confiscation. The presidency will be represented by Assistant DPP Toyin Salako and Chief Inspector Richard Barrow of the Cayman Islands Bureau of Financial Investigation. My Lord, we offer our commendations to our criminal justice partners, in particular the Commissioner of Police and the Director of Customs and Border Patrol, and the dedicated officers of the RCIPS and the CBC as they continue to do an outstanding job in maintaining law and order. I also take this opportunity to acknowledge the significant contributions made by Justice Cheryl Richards, QC, in leading the criminal division by way of effective first mention hearings, prompt criminal listings, and robust case management, as well as the various acting judges who ensured that the criminal trials in the Grand Court progressed apace. We also look forward to working closely with the judicial administration as we continue to deliver an efficient criminal justice system. It now only remains for me to wish you and all of our judges, magistrates, court administrative staff, my colleagues at the bar, and the people of the Cayman Islands a happy, healthy, safe, and prosperous New Year.
I would now like to introduce the President of the Cayman Islands Legal Practitioners Association, Eric Bodden, who will speak on the activities of the association, the Cayman Attorneys Regulatory Authority, and the Legal Services Bill.
May it please my Lord, I have the great honor of supporting the motion to open the Grand Court for the year 2022 and making this speech on behalf of the Cayman Islands Legal Practitioners Association, known as SILPA. As is customary, the SILPA President's Grand Court opening speech is used to raise awareness of SILPA's work over the past year and to highlight upcoming projects and challenges we will face in the coming year. And I'd like to take this opportunity to do just that, albeit in short form this year. There was extensive work done by SILPA in 2019 and 2020 with the assistance of various subcommittees on two major pieces of legal reform: the Cayman Attorneys Regulatory Authority, known as CARA, and the Draft Legal Services Bill. CARA continues to act as the AML supervisor for attorneys in the Cayman Islands, with an exceptionally high caliber of staff, overseen by a board of non-practicing lawyers and other highly experienced business professionals holding many years of direct experience in Cayman's legal and financial services industry, ensuring its independence from practicing attorneys who are subject to supervision. It has been a great success, as demonstrated by the fact that none of the outstanding CFATF recommended actions required to be addressed by the jurisdiction relate to CARA or the regulation of lawyers in the Cayman Islands. SILPA is extremely grateful for all of the work done by CARA, the board of CARA, and the SILPA CFATF subcommittee in this respect. Turning to the Legal Services Act. As you know, after more than 50 years without legal services reform, the Act was passed by Parliament after a long debate in December of 2020 and published on the 7th of January 2021. Whilst not perfect, I think all, if not most, of those in the legal services industry would agree that the Act is essential to ensure that the Cayman Islands maintains its position as a preeminent legal services jurisdiction. Following the passing of the Act, the SILPA Council of 2020 and the SILPA Council of 2021 began working with government in the Attorney General's chambers on the commencement of the Act. Unfortunately, a year has now passed and the Act has not yet been commenced. That being said, SILPA was extremely pleased to hear the Honourable Premier in his 2022-2023 budget speech confirm that his government will be reviewing the Act early this year with a view to commencing it within a period of weeks. So we anticipate, based on the Honourable Premier's assurance, that the Act will be commenced within the first quarter of 2022. Of course, there are other important initiatives apart from CARA and the Legal Services Act, which SILPA worked on in 2021 and will continue to work on in the year ahead. Considerable efforts have been made over the past year to strengthen SILPA's relationship with other associations on island, including SEPA, amongst others. Together, we have been working on promoting the efficiency and communication between government and industry stakeholders on various legislative developments, for example, the proposed changes to the beneficial ownership regime. To that end, I would like to especially thank the Minister of Financial Services, the Honourable Andre Ebanks, for his continued effort and availability in this respect, and in particular for giving us a greater insight into the inner workings of his ministry, and for facilitating discussions with key industry stakeholders with a view to strengthening the private and public partnership. In terms of other initiatives, and COVID permitting, SILPA is also working on a joint networking event with SEPA, targeting senior members of firms on island, which we hope to launch within the first quarter of 2022. This would be in addition to the usual wider membership networking events and events targeting law students and article clerks, which were put on hold due to COVID last year. On the education front, we hope to relaunch the SILPA seminar series in the second quarter of 2022 and continue the joint initiative with the courts on the judicial clerkship program. And while on the topic of legal education, I would also like to thank the SILPA Education Subcommittee and the Truman Bodden Law School for all of their hard work on developing the International Practice Module for the PPC, which was rolled out this month. Finally, I would like to thank my current and fellow council members, Vice President and Secretary Nick Bullmore, Treasurer Justin Hart, Wanda Ebanks, Kendra Foster, Klein Glidden, and Richard Barton, and also outgoing SILPA members, council members, David Collins, David Rich, and Alistair Robertson, for giving up so much of their own personal time outside of their very heavy work commitments to support SILPA and all of its initiatives. It only remains for me to formally second the Honourable Attorney General's motion to open the Grand Court for the year 2022, and to take this opportunity to wish your Lordship, judges, court staff, and fellow members of the legal profession a very happy and prosperous New Year. Thank you.
On behalf of the consultant editors of the Cayman Islands Law Reports, Colin McKee, QC, will provide us with a summary of the published reports.
If it may please my Lord, I am privileged to be able to support the motion to open the Grand Court for the year 2022, moved by Mr. Attorney and seconded by Madam Assistant Director and the President of the Cayman Islands Legal Practitioners Association, and to provide this brief summary of my remarks. I am pleased to be able to report that the publication of the second volume of the law reports for 2020, which had been delayed for COVID-related reasons, is expected to be available at the end of this month, and the first volume for 2021 shortly thereafter. We hope that the recent upsurge in COVID cases does not cause further logistical difficulties in the publication of our reports. Needless to say, however, the law reporters, editors, and printers will continue to work diligently to ensure that our reports continue to be published as quickly as changing circumstances permit. Despite the continuing disruption and challenges that COVID has caused to the administration of justice in our islands, our courts nevertheless delivered 188 judgments in 2021 as follows. In the Grand Court, in the Financial Services Division, 85. In the Civil Division, 35. In the Criminal Division, 24. In the Family Division, 12. In the Court of Appeal, 30. And in the Privy Council, 2. We thank you and the judges of the Grand Court, the President of the Court of Appeal, and the Justices of Appeal, the Chief Magistrate and Magistrates, for your unceasing dedication to administer justice in these islands independently, fairly, and efficiently. Much of that work involves long hours outside of court, such as preparing for hearings, writing judgments, and ensuring the efficient administration of our courts. I wish to express our thanks to those people based here and overseas who have willingly given up their valuable time in 2021 to sit as acting judges of the Grand Court and as acting magistrates. In the Grand Court, they were Marlene Carter, His Honour Roger Chappell, the Honourable Martha MacDonald Bishop, Tim Owen, QC, the Honourable Dale Palmer, Simon Russell Flint, QC, Philip St. John Stevens, Alistair Walters, the Honourable Frank Williams, Michael Wood, QC, His Honour Paul Worsley, QC. In the Magistrates' Court, they comprised Vanessa Allard, Robert Jones, David McGrath, and Adam Roberts. We also wish to express our gratitude to the Administrator, the Clerk of the Court and her deputies, and all the administrative, technical, security, and support staff at the courthouse who, behind the scenes, work hard and diligently to assist and serve the public and attorneys. It therefore now only remains for me to wish a happy, healthy, and prosperous new year to you and all of our judges, magistrates, and clerks, to the entire administrative staff, to all members of the profession, and to the people of the Cayman Islands. I have the honour and privilege to support Mr. Attorney's motion this morning.
I would now like to introduce the Honourable Chief Justice Anthony Smellie, QC.
For the opening of the courts this year in 2022, we have adopted, as your audience will have observed, a hybrid format, one which allows for attendance in person, as well as for brief presentations which have been pre-recorded. In this way, we are able to present our reports by way of live streaming to the widest possible audience at home and abroad. In keeping with tradition, we will nonetheless use this occasion in January, like Janus, for whom the month is named, to look both retrospectively at developments in the past, as well as prospectively to plans for the future. Our presentations must necessarily be brief for this occasion, but the fully documented reports, supported where required by statistics and graphical material, will also be published. There have been many developments over the past 28 years since I joined the bench, the latter 24 or so of which have been served as Chief Justice. The court system and the judiciary have evolved in keeping with the needs of society, and constitutional advancements have reflected these developments. In 1993, the Constitution was amended expressly to entrench the status of the Grand Court as a superior court of record and the positions of its judges as a third co-equal arm of government buttressed by the separation of powers. The same amendment provided for the security of tenure of judges, as well as for a law for the establishment of the summary courts, which was later enacted as the Summary Jurisdiction Act. The latest Constitution of 2009 expressly provides that the Parliament and the Executive shall uphold the rule of law and judicial independence, and shall ensure that adequate funds are provided to support the judicial administration in the Cayman Islands. And of still further significance, most recently in 2016, the 2009 Constitution was amended to further entrench the separation of powers and the independence of the judiciary by clarifying that the judiciary is responsible for its own self-discipline, except when there are grounds for removal for serious misbehavior or inability to perform, and clarifying that judges are entitled to hold office to age 70 instead of 65. As a result of these developments, it is with a real sense of assurance that I can report that judicial independence and the fiscal autonomy of the justice system are no longer simply matters of the resolve of the judiciary and goodwill of government, but matters which are permanently enshrined within the constitutional arrangements for the good governance of the islands. I begin my presentation with this reference to good constitutional governance, not because of its importance to the judiciary, but because of its importance to the welfare of the public we serve. It explains the philosophical and practical framework in which the judiciary will administer justice for the people of the Cayman Islands and for the hundreds of thousands of individuals and corporate entities who do business in and through the islands. Indeed, the fundamental value of judicial independence is not simply the protection it affords the judges and magistrates themselves, but the assurance it provides that they will be able to be faithful to their oaths of office, which is to do justice by all manner of people without fear or favor, affection, or ill will. It is by these precepts that the people are assured that their rights will be protected and enforced, and that all persons, including the agencies of government themselves, will be held accountable to the rule of law. The necessary corollary of judicial independence is, of course, judicial accountability. In this regard, I can again say with confidence that the Cayman judiciary has, in the conduct of all its affairs, striven to be accountable, open, and transparent. We had so declared by our mission statement to the public, published in 1998, in the following terms, quote, "The judiciary of the Cayman Islands is an independent branch of government committed to dispensing justice fairly and impartially and to disposing of cases as quickly and efficiently as is consistent with the interests of justice and the rule of law," end quote. In striving to fulfill that mission, the judicial administration has had to keep pace not only with legal and constitutional changes, but also with the demands of dispute resolution arising from our rapidly developing society and its increasingly dynamic and sophisticated international business. The sheer growth of litigation can be seen from a simple comparison between the number of cases taken before the Grand Court in 1982, when there are 257 civil and 13 indictment criminal cases, and those taken 38 years later in 2019, when there are more than 1,000 civil cases in all divisions and 116 indictments. But not even those starkly contrasted numbers explain the even more phenomenal increase in the size and complexity of the cases coming before the courts as a result of the financial industry's global reach. This phenomenon is perhaps best illustrated by the case of Ahab versus Sickle and others. That case, after 7 years of interlocutory hearings, each quite involved in its own right, took a full year from July 2016 to July 2017 to be tried. It involved a claim for some US dollars 9.2 billion and a counterclaim for 6 billion. It examined an evidentiary database of some 2 million documents covering 30 years of financial transactions, with testimony from dozens of witnesses, many by way of video link from Saudi Arabia. It resulted in a written judgment of some 1,300 pages, one which discussed significant developments in several areas of law, including equitable tracing, the doctrine of illegality, and the conflict of laws. The case attracted coverage in the international financial press, with some 120 of the world's leading banks having an interest in the outcome. Remarkable as that case was, it was not unique. There have been, since the turn of the millennium, many other complex and difficult cases, which required several weeks and even months of trial. Some of these are mentioned in my written report. And so, consistent with the increasing numbers, complexity, and variety of the cases, the establishment of judges and magistrates has been transformed in recent years. From only 3 in 1989, the then Chief Justice, a magistrate, and the Clerk of Court, to 39 today, including a panel of 18 acting judges and magistrates. This increase in judicial personnel, while consistent with the rapidly increasing numbers and complexity of cases, is also the consequence of a deliberate arrangement to ensure that the judiciary can fulfill its responsibility to administer justice in a timely and efficient manner, and consistent also with the Bill of Rights, which mandates the fulfillment of that responsibility in relation to the individual rights of persons. Accordingly, ever since the introduction of Practice Direction 1 of 2012, commensurate with the complexity of the case and length of time taken for a hearing or trial, time is reserved immediately before and following the hearing or trial to allow for preparation and writing of judgments. This arrangement, which has proven effective in judgments being delivered within the established periods of 2 to 3 months on the Grand Court and 2 to 3 weeks on the summary courts, works well and is very much facilitated by the relief from continuous hearings or trials provided to the established judges and magistrates by the members of the panels of acting judges and magistrates. I should mention a word about mediation, a form of alternative dispute resolution. Many cases coming before the courts, especially matrimonial disputes, are best resolved not by way of acrimonious contested trial, but by way of mediation. To this end, several members of the judiciary and senior legal officers of the administrative staff were trained and certified as mediators in February 2016, based upon a program of training presented locally by the London School of Mediation. Since 2016, a program for consensual mediation has been formally established. It involved a process of mediation, information, and assessment meetings at which the parties are advised about the benefits of mediation. When they agree to go to mediation, their cases are entered into the mediation roster for mediation facilitated by a mediator judge, magistrate, or the mediation coordinator. Since 2016, more than 200 cases, primarily matrimonial, and a few general civil cases have been successfully mediated. In 2022, the program will be extended more generally to the civil divisions of the Grand and Summary Courts, where from experience, a similar high rate of success as with family cases is to be expected. I conclude my opening remarks by reference to the use of information technology and electronic transactions. These are the modern means by which the judicial administration will continue to be able to administer justice in the timely and efficient manner declared by our mission statement. You will hear more about the details from others who are more directly responsible for leading these initiatives. Here I emphasize the critical importance of information technology. These means of doing business have proven to be indispensable to our ability to continue to administer justice without serious disruption, despite the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. They will be the way of the future as we continue to transition the business of the courts to operate in a more efficient and paperless environment. I will now ask you to pay your attention to those who will follow by way of their presentation, and thank you for your attention to these, my opening remarks.
I would like to introduce the Honourable Chief Magistrate Valdis Foldats, who will present the Summary Court's annual report for 2021.
I am pleased to present the Summary Court's annual report this year. Once again, just as in 2020, this report could be entitled Pandemic Edition. PCRs, LFTs, social distancing, QR codes, new acronyms, new words, all now part of everyday conversations globally and in our islands. The pandemic continues to affect all aspects of our lives. Our courts have not escaped its reach, but we have persevered and we have continued to provide these islands with open, accessible, and independent justice in a timely manner across all of our varied jurisdictions. I take this opportunity to thank the Chief Justice for his unwavering support and invaluable guidance during these trying times. Building on the foundation laid by our former Chief Magistrate Nova Hall, we have responded to a rapidly changing world with a view to making concrete improvements in the delivery of our services to the public. What services do we provide? At the most fundamental level, courts provide access to justice and uphold the rule of law, lofty principles that are vital to any healthy democracy. In practical terms, the Summary Court presides over criminal, civil, family, traffic, and coroner's cases. We are able to deal with such a varied caseload because of the commitment, expertise, and passion of our 5 full-time magistrates and 3 acting magistrates. Here, I note the appointment of Vanessa Allard as a permanent magistrate in early 2021. She's a valuable addition to our team. As well, we are ably supported by our personal assistants, Ms. Faith and Ms. Tashona, who are actively involved in the day-to-day operations of our courts. And finally, I am grateful for the support of the administration, in particular, those individuals working behind the scenes in all of our registries. I applaud the efforts of our administration to modernize our facilities and resources. The developments in this respect are covered in other reports, and I will not go over well-trodden ground. As well, I will not repeat what was said in Chief Magistrate Hall's comprehensive 2020 report, which sets out in detail the Summary Court's diverse responsibilities. I will instead highlight 2 areas of our work, our specialist courts and our work in the family courts, with a view to increasing the public's understanding of our less publicized work and thereby enhancing public confidence in our judicial system. I will deal firstly with our specialist courts. In an effort to address the underlying problems that lead to criminal behavior, many jurisdictions, including the Cayman Islands, have established specialized courts, such as drug courts and mental health courts. This has occurred in part due to a recognition that the traditional approach to dealing with offenders has been ineffective in dealing with recidivism. Traditional courts aim to move cases through the system quickly, leaving rehabilitation to outside agencies with little or no oversight by the court system. In contrast, specialist courts keep offenders before the court for many months, pre-sentence, collaborating with outside agencies in an effort to address the underlying causes of an offender's criminal behavior. For example, our courts must deal with offenders who are addicted to drugs, and in most cases, it is the addiction that leads to criminal behavior. Petty thefts, burglaries, etc., are committed to support the offender's addiction. In a drug court setting, the court exercises continuing and active oversight of an offender throughout a lengthy period of treatment with the assistance of various service providers such as probation, counseling, etc. Through frequent court appearances, vigilant drug testing, and the use of rewards and sanctions, the court holds offenders accountable for compliance with the program. In contrast with the traditional adversarial approach, the court model requires a multidisciplinary team approach with the judge acting as an overseer, having the final say in terms of each offender's case. In essence, the drug court judge is able to encourage those who are making progress and to sanction those who are not. The goal being to keep offenders in the program long enough for treatment services to be effective. Graduation from the program requires a minimum number of months of sobriety, as well as employment, education, or volunteer activity, laying a foundation for drug-free, responsible, and productive life. As can be seen from this very brief description, the aim of our drug court is rehabilitation, not punishment. I turn now to our family court. This is a catch-all term that includes care proceedings, private law family cases, and protection from domestic violence cases. Our work here is necessarily out of public view to protect the children who are caught up in these cases. However, the importance of this work cannot be overstated. We deal with families that are fractured, children who are at risk due to parental neglect, and families where domestic violence is the norm. Children who live in homes where there is domestic violence or neglect grow up in an environment that is unpredictable, filled with tension and anxiety, and dominated by fear. This can lead to significant emotional and psychological trauma that is carried into their adult lives. We are called upon to decide whether to remove children from their homes and place them in care, or whether a child should reside with one or the other parent. We decide appropriate levels of financial support and contact arrangements. In essence, we look for outcomes that are in the best interests of the children involved in these cases. Even after such a brief description, it can be seen that this is a very important part of our work, given the devastating and long-lasting effect that family discord can have on a child and by extension on society. I am proud of our magistrates' conduct of the family cases which often require urgent, time-sensitive applications. We strive to be available and responsive to these demands, often scheduling these matters before our regular caseload begins. I hope that by highlighting these two areas, our specialist courts and our family courts, I have opened a window on the summary court's work so that it is better understood and so that the public can be confident that we endeavor to find solutions for the most vulnerable and disadvantaged members of our society. The pandemic continues to disrupt our lives and will do so for months to come. Court users, staff, attorneys, judges, all of us in the criminal justice system have been affected by it. We will continue to be challenged. I am proud to serve as Chief Magistrate for our islands and pledge that I will continue our efforts to modernize and improve the summary court so that we can meet that challenge and provide our islands with open, accessible, and independent justice in a timely manner across all of our varied jurisdictions. Thank you.
There will now be a number of short presentations by the department heads of judicial administration. The Court Administrator and Chief Officer of Judicial Administration is Suzanne Bothwell. Ms. Bothwell will provide an overview of some of the highlights from 2021 while looking forward to this year and beyond.
The role of judicial administration is to support the judiciary in the administration of justice. As court administrator, I lead a team of dedicated staff who seek to provide service in a professional and timely manner in keeping with our mission and world-class civil service values of exceptional customer service, professionalism, and integrity. Our success comes from a sense of personal responsibility and pride in delivering high-quality service in a manner that is professional yet caring. This philosophy was put to the test in March 2020 when the COVID-19 global pandemic hit our shores. The Honorable Chief Justice and I, along with our senior leadership team comprising the Clerk of Court, Deputy Clerks, Director of Legal Aid, and Chief Financial Officer, swiftly developed a strategy to deliver emergency court services during a period of national shelter in place. However, none of this could have happened without the willingness of our judiciary and staff to pivot on a moment's notice and to be committed to our mandate. At the time, the impact of what we were doing was not fully appreciated until one day when we received a personal note from a mother who told us that the service we provided was the difference between feeding her child and not having any food to eat. This motivated us to take an even deeper dive into our court services to find creative solutions to support our most vulnerable court users. In 2021, business increased at pace. However, the one silver lining resulting from the pandemic was that many of our planned business strategies were accelerated by us having to prioritize the use of technology to deliver a variety of services in an environment where social distancing was now the norm. The series of management reports that you will hear throughout this video presentation will hopefully demonstrate how Cayman's judicial administration continues to make positive strides in providing 21st century services to our domestic and international court users. For the 2022 calendar year, we look forward to continuing this trend. Enhancements such as digital trial management, electronic recordings of court cases, completion of our online gateway to accommodate most of our court financial transactions, and the modernizing of our www.judicial.ky website will round out our cadre of online digital services that will allow us to bolster our position as a leading court service provider, both regionally and internationally. Also of note is the expansion of our plant to accommodate 2 additional courtrooms. This has been in the works for many years and is now becoming a reality. 2021 saw a hive of activity, and we look forward to bringing online our new and modern Grand Court facility in early 2022. Likewise, works will commence in 2022 to establish a permanent home for the Court of Appeal. These efforts are largely led by our very own Public Works Department, supported by our external contractors. However, as we continue to journey together to realize all of these achievements, none of this could have happened without the contribution and support of others. Special acknowledgement must be given to our Chief Justice for his vision, leadership, and partnership, our government for the funding they have provided to allow us to drive the modernization of our court environment, civil service leadership for providing weekly lateral flow testing to ensure staff safety, business continuity within the civil service, our internal leaders and managers who set the tone for delivering high quality of service and effective teams, our internal staff for their unwavering dedication and commitment, our vibrant social committee who keep us energized and engaged, our HR staff who look after a wide variety of our HR needs, in particular our health and psychological safety, our security and janitorial staff who continue to keep staff and court users safe in our facilities, our court users for their cooperation, feedback, and encouragement, and our various technical and external stakeholders who have helped us over the last 2 years and who have walked with us every step of the way to develop our environment in particular Oak Williams Consulting and Solex. And now I conclude to allow for the presentation of our departmental reports.
The Deputy Chief Officer, Natasha Scotland, shares with us some updates on the technological initiatives aimed at enhancing court services.
In 2021, Judicial Administration's vision was to transform and enhance operational activities of the courts by creating new e-services offerings that will enable us to engage more effectively with our clients and justice partners. Our IT department had a challenging and very active year, which meant partnering with a number of local IT service providers to assist and guide us on the path in our modernization requirements, which included rebuilding our IT infrastructure. We implemented a number of major IT upgrades. There were multiple projects running concurrently to each other that included the following: implementation of new hardware, inclusive of servers, switches, wireless access points, laptops, storage, and the connectivity of all. Implementation of a core case management application, implementation of payment gateways, and implementation of several web applications. We have invested in our IT infrastructure so that we have high availability of our data and also the ability to mitigate against the risk of downtime in the event of a failure of hardware. In May and June, there were significant upgrades to improve our dedicated internet access lines. This was to provide better connectivity and also optimize bandwidth speed that will stabilize our internet environment locally to allow for better reliability with our video links, hearings, electronic filings, etc. The adoption of our new platform, namely Curia, will also allow us to put in place a number of other strategic and operational recommendations regarding effectiveness and efficiency of our courts. This technology will allow court users to securely submit court filings electronically and permit the courts to move forward towards a more efficient and paperless environment. Our new platform also grants access to attorneys and litigants who will now be able to manage and monitor their cases electronically. Curia also offers us court intelligence reporting and analytics that will make it possible to evaluate efficiency of operations. The implementation of the payment gateways for the payment of traffic tickets and speeding tickets online will be expanded to include professional fees and notary fees in early 2022. Ultimately, all court payments will be online to allow easy access to the courts and its services. Security of the court environment is also paramount. The judiciary and the employees who support them are vulnerable to threats and attacks, so we must always be mindful of the security needs of our environment. This allows the judiciary to faithfully administer justice and perform its functions efficiently and independently. A security assessment was conducted to analyze the state of the infrastructure, processes, and resources relating to the physical security measures provided by the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service for the members of the judiciary and court staff, the various buildings that are used for the judicial activities. Risks and a mitigation strategy was identified in the areas of physical security, access control, employee security, and emergency response. The recommended mitigation strategies have ongoing projects that will see a transformation of the physical environment, security procedures, and security personnel. There is still a lot of work ahead of us, and on the horizons are other relevant IT procurements that will positively impact our front-end user. It is very exciting, and I look forward to the next level of our wider vision for modernizing the courts.
The Chief Financial Officer, Tiffany Ebanks, will talk about the advances made within the finance unit and improvements to the services that impact our clients.
For finance, 2021 was a year of restructuring and progressing virtually. the focus being on improving the processes and systems in place to better serve our clients, both locally and overseas. Despite the many challenges brought about by the pandemic, the dedicated staff adapted well and pushed ahead to ensure our clients continue to have access to collect and/or pay funds to or from the court. Starting first with the restructure. The restructure of the finance unit included 3 distinct sections: the accounts payable, accounts receivable, and the court funds office. The establishment of these sections, coupled with additional resources, provided the enhanced structure needed to support the day-to-day operations and strategic financial management of the court's finances. Throughout the year, each section collaborated with the relevant registries, units, and stakeholders to form greater synergies and workflow. An example of this is clients of court fund services can now pay at the financial center, saving them the need to traverse to another department to wait in line all over again. The financial center also upgraded its physical appearance by refurbishing the waiting area. This has added to a more positive client experience by providing a welcoming feeling as clients walk in, giving them a sense that we are happy to serve them. Moving on to progressing virtually. In our efforts to move paperless, finance has progressed significantly. We now offer to email our clients their receipt and will print a paper copy if requested. 100% of purchase orders are sent to vendors via electronic means, and the Court Funds Office has shifted to paperless processing and filing using digital means. We have also made great strides with transacting online. Finance provides a critical service to the families and clients we serve, and thus we have adapted to a virtual environment. During this transition, some clients required assistance, for which staff provided walkthroughs over the phone or directed them to the guidance note on the online process. With the move to the virtual environment, more clients are utilizing the option of making payments into the courts online. In the payable section, 90% of payments are made to our vendors via electronic funds transfer. And in the Court Funds Office, an increased number of clients have switched from receiving funds via check to electronic funds transfer. We are also happy to report the commencement of the online payment portal in Q4 of 2021. Phase 1 of this project made it possible for clients to pay their traffic tickets online using their debits or credit cards. Clients can now make payments from the comfort of their home, office, or even on the go. Overall, 2021 was a successful year in restructuring the finance unit and progressing virtually. In 2022, we continue with our plan to expand the options available on the payment portal as we move forward with modernization of our systems to better serve you.
The Director of Legal Aid is Stacey Park, and she gives us an oversight of some of the work and future plans of the Legal Aid Department.
In reviewing the accomplishments of 2021, it's important to reflect on the last couple of years. However, with the prompt response and action taken by the leadership of Judicial Admin in putting plans in place and measures to deal with the changing environment, we were able to quickly adapt to the circumstances we faced because of COVID-19. There has been a small reduction in the number of legal aid attorneys from 2020, both in the civil and criminal roster, and we attribute that reduction to a side effect of COVID-19. However, new attorneys were added to both lists in 2021, and we expect an increase in both rosters in 2022. It should also be noted that despite the slight drop in numbers of legal aid attorneys, the work of the Legal Aid Department remained demanding. The output from the attorneys was great, and we are very proud of the fact that the relationship with our listed attorneys and stakeholders have improved since 2019. The coronavirus disease exposed certain inequalities and limitations for low-income residents as access to certain resources or technology proved difficult. Although we initially reduced our in-person contact with all members of the public, the Legal Aid Department recommitted ourselves in 2020-2021 to ensure that our applicants, stakeholders, and colleagues were not impacted by any such limitations, and we continue to serve our stakeholders and the community during this critical time, quickly converting our operations in 2020 to allow the electronic submissions of applications, bill of costs, and other claims. Although there was a significant reduction in in-person meetings, we promptly put measures in place to work safely and ensure that members of the public still had access to justice, and the attorneys were compensated on a timely basis for their services. We also worked with SILPA and the criminal bar to ensure that the criminal listed attorneys receive exemption letters and were designated essential workers in 2020, so that they would be in a position to attend their offices, police stations, and their assisted attorneys, etc. As we transitioned into 2021 and adapted to this new working environment, our legal aid services and output for the past year developed significantly. And the work that had taken place is all geared towards building more awareness in our community and improving the services to the public and our stakeholders. This year marked significant advances in providing quality services to the residents of the sister islands, beginning with Cayman Brac. We set up temporary remote offices at the District Administration Office in February and in June 2021. And there, the director and legal aid officer worked remotely for 2 days, providing advice to the public, assisted with applications, attended summary court to support the magistrate, and raised a general awareness of legal aid in the community. In June 2021, the director conducted a training and information session with staff members from the Department of Children and Family Services, as they frequently assist the legal aid department with Cayman Brac residents by completing and submitting legal aid applications on their behalf, and usually is our first point of contact with many of the legal aid applicants. Plans for the first Cayman Islands Legal Assistance Clinic began in earnest in May 2021. Further to discussions with the Legal Advisory Council, Court Administrator, the Legal Aid Department, and Truman Bodden Law School, an action plan was firmly put in place to finally establish the Legal Aid Clinic. It is intended that the Legal Aid Clinic will provide greater access to justice for the vulnerable and disadvantaged members of the community through the provision of free legal advice and assistance in a volunteer clinic setting from students of the Truman Bodden Law School under the supervision of members of the local bar. The establishment of the Legal Aid Clinic represents a unique partnership between judicial admin, legal aid, the Truman Bodden Law School, and the local bar through SILPA. In addition to providing a significant public service to those in need who require legal advice and assistance, the clinic will provide students enrolled in the law school with an opportunity to gain practical experience by assisting clients with real-life issues. Also, this experience can guide students in appreciating the complexities of legal theory through their active participation in the clinic. And it is hoped that their experience will bring about a new consciousness and an interest in local criminal and civil work. At its inception, the Legal Aid Clinic intends to offer both walk-in and appointment-based assistance to clients, 1 evening per month in areas of law ranging from family, civil, employment, immigration, human rights, traffic, and criminal law, as well as providing assistance to applicants for legal aid.
The Clerk of Court is Shiona Ellinger, and she will provide us with an overview on some of the operational efficiencies that have been achieved within the registries over the last 12 months.
Good morning. Judicial Administration. Civil side comprises of the Civil Registry, Family Proceedings Unit, Admiralty, and Financial Services Divisions. The need for technological advancement has been at the forefront of our modernization efforts, and for the past 2 years, we've been working on transforming our manual processes to align with the direction in which many courts have been moving by implementing an electronic system for managing files. At present, e-filing is taking place in the FSD division and general registries of the Grand Court by emails allowed by practice direction issued by the Honorable Chief Justice. Soon, there will no longer be a requirement for filing in triplicate and eventually dispensing with the need for hard copy files as the courts move closer to its goals of becoming paperless environment. The onset of the COVID-19 pandemic forced us to find temporary e-filing solutions to allow our clients to continue to do business with the courts while balancing the safety of our staff. The e-filing system was a welcomed improvement to our existing system. We renewed our efforts to secure a permanent e-filing platform now underway with Apex Cura. This is a key step in realizing judicial administration's goals for operating in a paperless environment. Managing operational efficiencies through the Cura system, we've found that the file management is one of our most notable achievements for 2021. This is the production of e-filing and case management through the Cura system. The new system allows our clients to file documents with the courts at any time, not just during opening hours. It also allows for the filing of documents without having to visit the court's office and the ability to view relevant documents on the file electronically. With new matters being filed through a central repository, we anticipate an improvement in efficiency, greater document security, and a long-term solution to further contingencies such as COVID-19. We were able to partner with various law firms for a short period for testing in the Financial Services Division and address any issues before making e-filing available in the Civil Registry and Family Proceedings Unit. We would like to thank all the external stakeholders for patiently assisting us with the testing of the Cura Apex platform. Electronic payments are but one aspect of the capabilities of the Cura system. We hope to have the e-payment aspect of the system rolled out in the next few weeks, which will allow our clients to pay the corresponding fees when the documents are filed. The e-payment section of the system is designated to automatically calculate the relevant fees, which will greatly assist in reducing errors, underpayments, overpayments, and for the processing of refunds and bank fees associated with same. In keeping with our modernization efforts, we have, since 2019, moved our public registers online. Clients can therefore now access the court's public registers remotely for the years 1995 to present, online through our judicial website at www.judicial.ky. Earlier this year, Judicial Administration, on the basis of the practice directions issued by the Honorable Chief Justice, moved to a digital sealing and signing platform, which offers tamper-free features and which is constructed on encryption technologies. During the lockdown, judges, senior administrative managers, and staff on the civil side were able to utilize this solution to digitally sign, stamp, and dispatch various court dockets, which generally reduced the need for staff to physically attend at the office and for physical contact. The use of e-signatures and seals will become a permanent feature of business.
The Deputy Clerk of Court Criminal is Cecile Collins, and she will speak on some of the initiatives and activities of the Criminal Registry in 2021.
Summary Court. The restructuring of the Summary Court Criminal Registry is well underway, with a full complement of frontline staff, albeit we are awaiting the reevaluation of the supervisors' posts. All documents pertaining to summary and Grand Court criminal cases are now registered at the main counter. The work is then disseminated to all units from the counter staff. Example, coroner's court, indictments, appeals, jurors, etc. A Dropbox account has been provided for electronic filing of all DCR reports, which are then copied to the ODPP defense attorney and uploaded into GEMS for the magistrates to have access and review prior to the matter being heard. With the coroner's court now being managed by the summary court registry, we have a dedicated clerk assigned to this registry to assist the coroner and manage all administrative duties. This clerk is also trained as a backup Grand Court clerk should the need arise. Special Domestic Violence Court, SDVC. With the MOU between the courts, the RCIPS, the ODPP, and the DCFS for establishing the SDVC coming into effect on the 7th of December 2018, we have set up a separate registry to show how many SDVC cases are being processed and how quickly they are disposed by the court. Given the need for urgent intervention, which always attend these types of cases, this has proven to be a very important initiative. Cross-training. On the first and third Friday of each month from 3:30 p.m. to 4:30 p.m., all criminal register staff are being cross-trained to develop full understanding and responsibility for all the work carried out in the criminal registries. At those workshops, we share information and identify workflows on how to simplify case processing and workload. Electronic filing of reports to court. The criminal registry currently receives reports from a number of external agencies. For example, the Probation Office and the Mental Health Office of the HSA. An MOU has been agreed with those agencies for the timely preparation of documents to be received by the courts, and the practice direction issued by the Chief Justice directs how they may be filed electronically. Once filed, the reports can be accessed directly by the magistrates and the judges and their PAs. The registry staff is responsible for printing and uploading all reports daily between the hours of 8:30 to 9 a.m. A Dropbox account has been created for the DPP's office to file documents electronically, allowing the staff to review, seal, and upload in GEMS and provide sealed copies to the DPP within a 24-48-hour turnaround. Judicial Administration and the DPP are currently working on how we can also agree an MOU for receiving their trial bundles, indictments, and other documents electronically. Mental Health Court. There have been some challenges with obtaining mental health reports from HSA. However, with the assistance of Ms. Allinger and Ms. Scotland, we were able to reach the appropriate contact within the department, and they are now working on providing the backlog reports to the courts to move the matters forward.
Janisha Simpson is the Registrar of the Court of Appeal, and she will provide an overview of the business of the Court of Appeal in recent times.
The Court of Appeal of the Cayman Islands was established in 1984. The court sits for 3 sessions per year and each session for 3 weeks. The court also convenes for special sittings where necessary. Prior to 1984, appeals were heard by the Court of Appeal of Jamaica, exercising jurisdiction for the Cayman Islands. Sittings were held either in Grand Cayman or Jamaica. Since 1984, the court has presided exclusively in the Cayman Islands. Over the past few years, we have noted a growth in our court business and, by extension, the business of the Court of Appeal. The length and complexity of court matters have also required the complement of justices of appeal to be increased, which number now stands at 8. In the past 2 years, there have been a number of significant cases on which the court has adjudicated, including complex international financial services cases, one of which lasted 6 weeks, and cases of great public interest involving family life rights and people-initiated referendums. As the demand for court services grows, the administration must also find ways to enhance the manner in which court services are delivered. The global pandemic has been the catalyst which has accelerated the evolution of how the court does business. Since March 2020, the practice of delivering hard copy documents to the Registrar of the Court of Appeal has been expanded through practice directions to allow for filing by electronic means. This has greatly improved accessibility and efficiency as it relates to court services. The judgments of the Court of Appeal are also now accessible electronically on our website at www.judicial.ky. During the nationwide lockdown as a result of the pandemic, the court was able to continue to hear appeal matters in a virtual environment. The Justices of Appeal, together with counsel, utilized remote video services to facilitate their virtual presence in the courtroom in the Cayman Islands. It also allowed appellants in criminal matters to be virtually present in the courtroom for the hearing of their appeals whilst adhering to the public health regulations. We are also pleased to report that for the first time in the history of the Court of Appeal, we were able to provide live streaming of all court matters to allow members of the public access to court hearings, even during the height of the COVID pandemic and the restrictions on public gatherings. Selected cases of great public interest are also live streamed on the Judicial Administration's website to ensure that the widest audience is reached on important judicial decisions. Finally, we are happy to report that steps will be taken in 2022 to construct a dedicated courtroom and facilities for the Court of Appeal.
We return to the live part of our program. That was done, I believe, in the hour and 15 minutes, the pre-recorded part that I promised. But in any event, I'm sure you would have found the presentations, very interesting. And certainly, you would have had an opportunity to hear directly from some of our very capable and dedicated officers, unlike in previous years when you heard only from the Chief Justice. So thank you again for your attention, those here and following remotely. And in closing, it is appropriate as usual to announce some of the more significant events and developments planned for the new year. I already alluded to continuing judicial education. Consistent with the importance of this subject, we will move this year to institutionalize our programs by the formal establishment of the Cayman Islands Judicial Education Institute. For this initiative, which will be steered by Justice Kawley as chair of the existing committee and myself, we'll be working closely with Justice Linda Dobbs and the Judicial Institute of Africa, based in Cape Town, of which she's the director, and which is on a Judge Chapel. With their assistance, a faculty of educators, experienced judges and practitioners from around the world will be identified and a curriculum for continuing education established. The program will be designed to meet the very diverse needs of our courts, and because we intend to offer some of these programs to the profession, to meet some of their needs as well. The programs will be delivered online as well as in person as the occasion requires. In February, Judge Michael Hotmeyer will be coming to conclude a judicial education workshop on anti-money laundering and terrorist financing. In March, Lady Justice Mary Arden of the Supreme Court and Privy Council, accompanied by her husband, former Justice Lord Mance, will be coming to deliver the 2022 Distinguished Guest Lecture. While here, Lord Mance has kindly agreed to chair a discussion panel on cross-border insolvency issues. In June or July, we will be hosting this year's meeting of the Conference of Caribbean Heads of Judiciary. And in October, if all plans go well, we will for the first time be receiving the Privy Council, our final appellate court, for a special sitting in the islands. I thank you all for your kind remarks and sentiments expressed on behalf of myself, my colleagues, and indeed all members of the judicial administration staff. In relation to them in particular, your appreciation is not only well deserved, but I'm also sure very much appreciated. I think it only remains for me to accede to the motion for the opening of the courts for 2022, as I do in declaring the courts open. My thanks are as ever expressed to the Deputy Commissioner who is present in person, the Commissioner and the Officer of the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service for their resplendent turnout and parade, and in so doing, their important symbolic expression of support for the administration of justice and the rule of law. I thank you all for attending, and to those following online for taking the time to follow the proceedings. We wish for everyone all the very best for you and your families for 2022. We will now stand for the national song to be followed by the adjournment.
I cannot be forget.